Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
We start things off going between the pipes because there is a massive game tonight for the Colorado Avalanche as they take on the Dallas Stars in Game 2 in Dallas. Will Peterson joins me now. Will, it's a simple question. Can and will the Avs take Game 2?
I think they definitely can. I mean, based on the way they came back in Game 1, it's just never say never with this team. And down 3-0, Rachel, you got the goals from the big dogs, right? It was Nichushkin, it was Kale, it was Nathan. But then in overtime, if I had told you, guess the assister and guess the goal scorer, you would have given me 1,000 guesses before you came up with Andrew Cogliano to Miles Wood. So that's the depth scoring at play that we hammered on so much in round 1. So yeah, why not? Even if they get down later tonight against the Stars, they just showed they have so much firepower. And I'm not going to lie, Jake Ottinger is a very good goalie, just like Connor Hellebuck. But he was winning games in the first round like 2-1, 3-2. For the Avalanche to get 4 on him kind of sends that message that they sent to Hellebuck, which was, we'll score on any goaltender in the world. We don't care.
Right. We even as Avalanche fans, we get a little cocky. We're like, only 4 goals tonight? Like, what are they doing out there, right? We've seen the 6, we've seen the 7 goals. So hopefully they can keep that rolling. But you're right. I never would have told you Miles Wood. But it's the exact same thing when I think back to the Cup run. I would never have said Darren Helm. Right? It's those things that are very similar, and that's what this Avalanche team needs. You need it from the big guys, but you also need it from those depth players, and that's what we're seeing. So props to Jared Bednar on that front.
Yeah, Jared Bednar, Joe Sakic, Chris McFarland, they really rebuilt the roster. You go back and look at the roster they lost to Seattle with. This is such a much better team all around this season than it was last season. So it's feeling a lot more like 2022 than 2023. Obviously, 22 resulted in the Cup. And yeah, Miles Wood deserves all his flowers. You see that goal from so many different angles. Yeah. He really doesn't have the space until the last second when he bursts and burns on the backhand and beats Ottinger clean. And again, we got to give Cogliano credit too, because that pass had the perfect pace coming out of the Avalanche's own zone.
Oh, 100%. But you know what else we got to give credit to? I think the best person on this team right now is Valeri Nichushkin. They are a Stanley Cup contender when he is out there, Will. And if not, they're a 500 level team. And we can give the roses to Nathan MacKinnon, who should win the Hart Trophy. And we're going to have 2 hopeful MVPs here in the Mile High City. We can give it to Cale Makar for being one of the greatest defensemen ever. But we have to give roses to Valeri Nichushkin because holy smokes, this team is totally different when he's out on the ice and when he's not.
Yeah, he's leading the NHL postseason in goals, or at least he was up until that. I think Zach Hyman got 2 in Edmonton last night, but he's right there. Nichushkin may pass him tonight. The Oilers, by the way, what a collapse, blowing that game to the Canucks 5-4. But yes, Val is just X Factor almost feels too understated, right? Like he's more than an X Factor at this point. He's one of their 4 best players, and he's trending towards maybe he gets that Conn Smythe that he could have gotten 2 years ago as the playoffs MVP should the Avalanche go and win the Stanley Cup. So, yeah, I mean, Val deserves his flowers, and he's been through a lot. It's well documented. He's been through a lot. He doesn't want to talk to the media. Well, guess what? If he keeps playing like this, no one's going to care about us media schlubs if he doesn't want to talk to us. They care about their favorite hockey team winning their 2nd Stanley Cup in 3 years.
Okay, after the game on Tuesday, were you watching SVP when they had Miles Wood and he could not catch his breath? And SVP's like, just take a breather. Like, we're here. No worries. I thought that interview was so perfect because it shows how hard these guys are playing, but especially somebody like Miles Woods, who, he's not on SVP very often. It might have been his first appearance ever, but you could just tell the emotion and the, intensity of the game right there as he immediately comes off the ice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to see because you're right. I guarantee you Miles Wood has never been on Scott Van Pelt Sports Center before. So it's the postseason, right? Heroes are made in the postseason. And yes, I mean, they do interviews really fast in hockey. They don't mess around. Like, you get off the ice, you go.
Which I need to praise them for, because when you cover Nikola Jokic, which, don't get me wrong, I don't take it for granted, and he takes an hour and a half to come to the podium after the game, you're like, all right, here we go. But hockey, they're like, all right, we're in, we're out, let's go. And I'm like, that's what I like to see, everybody.
Yeah, but you could tell. I mean, it goes to show you that when he's scoring a goal like that, it's really just a wind sprint, right?
Yeah.
Like what he's doing is just skating the hardest he can possibly skate, the length of the ice. And oh, by the way, he has to control the puck on his stick and still make a move. What, in my opinion, makes hockey perhaps the most skilled sport in the world. I mean, because they're really doing two sports at once, right? They're ice skating, which is an Olympic sport in and of itself. And they're also managing to hold a stick and navigate a puck past some of the best goalies on earth. It's a remarkable sport and a remarkable talent. And you're right, seeing him how tired he was with SVP, like physically exerted, shows you just how hard these guys play every single moment of every game.
All right, well, Peterson, last one for you because I know you're not feeling super well, but Georgiev still let in 3 goals, early goals. They go down 3-0. Defensively, I thought one of them was totally on Georgiev, but the other 2, I was like, you got to be able to help him out. He can't get peppered and not expect him to. In the overtime, fantastic. The amount of times that he got peppered and he held true and he had some really great saves. But I want to go back to that first period because what do the Avs need to change up in order to not let those first 3 goals happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like it was nerve-wracking because he had given up 7 in Winnipeg, and it sort of had that here we go again, game 1 type feeling. But I wrote in my story, like, I didn't think any of the 3 were necessarily soft. I thought they were more fluky. Like you go back and watch all 3 of those, they're like hitting bodies in front. Like the one all the way from the point that had eyes, like he didn't seem to be getting beat clean. It kind of just felt like the Stars were getting the bounces. So I agree with you. He was fantastic in overtime. I mean, he made the save he made on Sagan with about 5 minutes in was phenomenal to keep the game alive. But I just think in the first period, you got to play more in Dallas's zone. I mean, because right, if fluky goals are going in, it's a product of they're in your zone, they're getting shot after shot, they're getting the puck luck, they're hitting the bodies, they're finding the back of the net. So yeah, I would just say come out faster, come out more aggressive, play more in the opposition zone, and those kind of goals won't get in. You're right, I am a little bit under the weather, but unlike the Nuggets, I'm an Av, and I battle back.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Well, Peterson, is always a pleasure. Go take some cough syrup, and I hope you feel better as we will, in fact, move on to some Nuggets talk because Jamal Murray is getting a lot of hate nowadays because of his reaction yesterday after the media for, of course, we have to talk about the towel and the heat pack. And it wasn't a good look overall for Jamal Murray. It's no surprise right there. It's like, what are you doing? You play in the professionals. You're a pro. Why are you throwing things at a referee? Even though frustration did boil over. So don't get me wrong. Frustration boils over for all of us. But to, in fact, do something that could possibly hurt your own teammate, that's where I draw the line. Jokic could have stepped on the heat pack. He could have fallen over. How terrible would that have been? KCP, he's already got a bum ankle. Could you imagine if he would have stepped on it, slid, hurt his ankle even more? Like this team's already banged up. And Michael Malone said it yesterday. Every single team is beat up, but you got to be able to fight through it. You got to be able to fight adversity. And Michael Malone also yesterday talked about how so many of the things we saw in game 2 were so uncharacteristic. And Jamal Murray is very lucky that he's not getting suspended. I think personally the NBA wasn't going to suspend him because they didn't want that to be the reason that the Nuggets got bounced out of the second round. They wanted it to be a play, not because you took away the second best player on their team, because then there's a storyline of, oh, the NBA is rigged. Oh, everything's rigged. And we hear those conversations all the time. So the NBA didn't want that to be the reason, in my personal opinion. But the $100,000 fine and essential game check for him, yeah, I'm like, that has to really hurt. But it's also not the end all be all for somebody who makes as much money as Jamal Murray does. But the way he handled yesterday was just unprofessional in a sense, to completely say, you know, like on to the next game. And I get it. You don't want to talk about it. But if you didn't want to talk about it on Wednesday, then you sure as hell should have talked about it after the game on Monday night instead of dodging the media. You shouldn't have made sure Michael Malone waited a little bit longer in the locker room, hung out. And you should have just sat down at your locker, waited for the media to corral around you, answered the questions, and then everybody would have been done. But instead, you prolonged all of it. And here we are on Wednesday afternoon, and they're going to have you speak because, of course, you're one of the biggest storylines in the NBA right now because you did something childish. So then don't come back and have unprofessional remarks and say, does anybody have a basketball question? No? Okay, well, come on, Jamal. That was the biggest storyline that came out of that game, besides the fact that your team got legitimately embarrassed at home by the Minnesota Timberwolves. It wasn't a good look. I was frustrated with Jamal yesterday. I was like, this is a terrible look for you. You want to be an all-star, but you're not acting like an all-star. You haven't played well in the playoffs at all. You do something stupid that could have resulted in injury to your teammates. Or could you imagine if something would have happened to the Timberwolves already too? Like, then everybody would have absolutely just discredited the Nuggets. You can't do those things no matter how frustrated you are. And then throwing the towel too. When they threw the heat pack, I didn't know it was Jamal Murray until later on it came out. And I was like, that's just bad. Like, what are we doing? But to know that he also threw the towel, I was like, Jamal, dude, like, come on, be a professional, be a 20-something-year-old. I think he's like 26, 27, maybe 28 now at this point. I feel like the years are flying by. But I'm like, be a professional, dude. Go out there and be a leader for your team. It was the exact same thing that I felt about Jokic, who was sitting in the fourth. And everybody was like, it doesn't matter because they're going to lose no matter what. He needs to be well rested. Well, guess what? Jokic had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a little bit on Friday to get rested for the game Friday night. He needed to make a point and go out there and say, no, I'm going to fight for every single minute to see if we can come back into this game. When they went on that 17-4 run, even though, yeah, they were still down by almost 20 points, it was like, we'll still go out there and see if the best player in the world, the now 3-time MVP, can possibly get you back in this game a little bit more. This team can be down by 10 to 15 points and still battle their way back into it. We've seen that multiple times. Overall, disappointed by the Nuggets, disappointed by everything. And I loved Michael Malone yesterday during the press conference. And he says, you know what? We're going to find out what type of fight this team has. We're going to find out quarter one for this Denver Nuggets team. So I don't know what they're going to look like, but I'm really happy that we have the Colorado Avalanche, because I'm not going to be surprised if the Nuggets get swept. And right now, the Avs are showing that they can go against adversity. And I love seeing that. It's going to be so much fun to be able to watch them tonight, like I said, in Dallas, and see kind of the opposite. Now, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I think the Nuggets are going to be able to come back. I think they're going to win game 3. I think the conversation is going to change. I think they got their asses handed to them a little bit, and now they got embarrassed, and it's going to be like, okay, this is on us. And if they don't, then they're not the team we all thought they were, and the path was too easy last year for them to get all the way to the NBA Finals. That's my personal opinion. You can do with that what you want. But I will say also, Nikola Jokic yesterday, winning his 3rd MVP. His press conference was amazing. His interview with TNT was amazing. And I know everybody is super frustrated with the conversation that Shaq had and, not giving him his roses and sitting there and just congratulating him overall. I get that. My thing and I said this on Denver Sports Daily this morning, is TNT should have done better. TNT should have gone to Charles Barkley, who missed a charity golf tournament in Alabama yesterday, to be there for the announcement of the MVP. They should have gone to him if they thought that he should have won MVP. Jokic should have won MVP. You shouldn't have gone to the guy that disagreed completely and should not have done it. So I just thought on TNT's part, the planning was pretty bad. But I actually kind of applaud Shaq for being just totally upfront and honest with Jokic. And here, everyone's like, well, you could have asked another question. Those guys don't get very many questions. They make those interviews super fast. Nikola Jokic probably didn't want to do the interview, if we're going to be completely honest there. And I just feel like it's getting really outblown. There was actually somebody who put in the comments from Denver Sports Daily. They were like, this is real Kanye vibes. And it was just, I don't know, on TNT's part, I'm more frustrated than I am with Shaq's part. But Nikola Jokic had some really, really good one-liners in his press conference yesterday. He talked about one being a really cool grandpa, hopefully at the end of the day. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're going to probably be one of the coolest grandpas ever. Let's just be completely honest there. He also mentioned about how he cared so much and really appreciated Denver fans because they give him space when he goes to a very popular park here in Denver. And even when he's with his kids, people obviously look at him. I mean, he's 7 foot tall. So of course people are going to look at him regardless. And they still give him his space to hang out with him and his family. Denver has such a respect for Jokic that it just feels like, I don't know, he's just different. He's not like a Russell Wilson when he was here in Denver. Jokic wants to be just a normal dude who loves to play the game of basketball. And I think because he's presented himself in that way, Nuggets fans have accepted him in that way. He's just a good dude and he just loves the game of basketball. And they asked him how long he was going to play. And he says, as long as I can help this team and still play elite basketball. And I know that's going to be hopefully for many, many years to come. But right now he's in his prime. And unfortunately, it's probably nowhere, like, we're not only going up, we're probably staying plateauing, and then it's just going to be going down too. So Nikola Jokic is an absolute stud, and it's been an honor to be able to watch him and to see him win 3 MVPs. But the really scary fact to me is there's only been 3 players that have won the finals and won a Larry O'Brien trophy when also winning MVP that exact same year. It's almost like the President's Trophy for the NHL. There's like a curse that comes with it. If you win that, you're never going to win the Stanley Cup. Feels like that's the exact same thing when it comes to the NBA Finals and winning the Larry O'Brien trophy, but also winning MVP in that same year. Last year, the Nuggets won it, but Jokic didn't win MVP. So can they overcome this deficit against the Minnesota Timberwolves? I think we're going to see a different team in the first quarter this time around on Friday night. I'm really, really hoping so. And then we'll see what Jokic has in mind and if this team actually wants to fight through it, because it's going to be tough. Minnesota is going to be a very, very tough opponent. But before we even get into basketball, we got Avalanche tonight. It's going to be a really good game. I'm really excited about it. Oh, and also the Sean Payton stuff on calling up to the Bears. Yeah, I think that was all a fluke. I think Sean Payton was lying about that for sure. So I do believe that they picked up the phone and gave him a call, but I don't think that they were actually trying to move up to that number 9 spot. So we covered a lot of that on Denver Sports Daily this morning. So definitely check it out if you want some more details on all of those storylines. Huge shout out to Will Peterson again for fighting through the cold and coming and hanging out with us for just a little bit. And thank you to all of you for spending just a little bit of your time with me as well. Relatively kind of short episode today, but you guys, we got plenty of good stuff. I'm already excited for tonight's Avalanche game. And then I will see you guys tomorrow for Denver Sports Daily, 10 a.m. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody. Bye.